beer. This is Black Cat. This is light lager. Same as the what is the Black Cat and white stripe, something like that, orange stripe. I don't know what they call the other one, the Bengals one. This is the Bearcat version of their light lager. I decided probably about 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, to go to every single brewery in the city on the same day, which was amazing. People told me that it was impossible to make it to all of them, and it was really tough to get to all of them. Like actually putting together the day and the actual tour itself, logistically to get to every brewery was tough. It was like 36 breweries, something like that. At the end of the day, ended up at Hofbrauhaus and got arrested at the end of the night for being drunk in public. That's the very short version of the story. And part of that, the Newport Police Department, shout out to the Newport Police Department, not a fan. They when they arrested me, very, very long story short, they, on the police report, put on there that I am banned from every Hofbrauhaus. It's the way it's worded. It's humorous because I'm fairly certain that the Newport Police Department is not allowed to ban me from every Hofbrauhaus. I don't think that's a thing that they can do. I'm not even convinced that they were able to ban me from Hofbrauhaus Newport because I wasn't in Hofbrauhaus Newport when I got arrested. Like, that doesn't seem like a thing that they're able to do, but whatever. There's more developments on that side of things this year, but it is definitely a feather in the cap of being banned from every Hofbrauhaus. I enjoy it, but I'm not a fan of the Newport Police Department. So when I make Newport jokes, it's mostly tied to that. Or when I make Hofbrau jokes, it's mostly tied to that. I'm a Hofbrau fan. I love lager beer. Just not a fan of Newport Police Department. I don't think Hofbrauhaus did anything wrong. I don't think they had anything to do with any of it. They got a little backlash when it all happened, which was not fair to Hofbrauhaus. Their social media guy was a bit of a jerk about things and spread some lies and some things when it was all happening, but that's neither here nor there. Brian wants to know, when did you start drinking that day? I started drinking at 8 a.m. No, 10 a.m. I'd have to look at my notes. I think it was 10 a.m. and then we wrapped up about 2 a.m. So I mean, it was a full day of drinking. I think it was somewhere around 10 pints of beer throughout the whole day. So it really wasn't that crazy. The hardest part was getting to all of the breweries in the same day. Like I said, the whole thing was silly. So I got arrested for being drunk in Newport, and I don't think that I was the drunkest person in Newport that night. Not even close to it. But that's the way it works when you argue with a cop. That's what I was arrested for. Cheers, everybody! Shout out to both the Bearcats and the Bengals for a fun week. It's always fun with some. Ooh, that's good. I like that a lot. It's always fun when we have a week with actual football wins versus the other side, like we had last week. This week is as far as stuff that I've put out there, production wise, creations, things. The podcast is one that. Elijah says the drunkest person in Newport on any given night is probably pretty far gone, especially on a Saturday. I agree 100%. Joe says the Xavier football team is also undefeated, always. So podcast, Cincy Brewcast. This episode is one that I have been trying to get scheduled and had scheduled and trying to make it happen for a very long time. This new ownership from the Cincinnati Beverage Company, the CinBev, as they are called, took over earlier this year. And literally from the time they bought the company and rumors started spreading about it, I reached out and we were trying to get this together. So it's been a long time in the making, I guess. I mean, we're talking like 8 months or so, trying to figure this out and trying to make this show come together. So I'm so happy that we were finally able to sit down and make it. Joe says he has to bounce to go edit podcasts. Prost, everybody. Prost, Joe. Enjoy your editing. So I'm really happy that this show was finally able to come about. Brian says, I found your podcast from the Moeller Beer Barn one you did, Maria Stein. I grew up close. And on there, well, cheers. I'm glad that you found it. I have my wife's family is from up that part of the state. I like Moeller Brew Barn a lot. So CinBev and Christian Moorline, Little Kings, Hootie Delight, all of those brands mean so much to me as a beer drinker, and so to finally be able to get them on the show now and kind of start to tell that story and this kick things off for this new generation of what that company is hopefully going to be, which I do think they're going to be something that we can be proud of. Again, is really fun. It just so happened that the day we sat down to record was also the same day that they brewed this new batch of Little Kings. This new this batch for the new ownership, which will be it was definitely still brewed with a contract partner. We didn't really dive into that super deep on the show, but you got same place that they've been brewing it, but it will be bottled in house, and it will be like I saw the bottles, like they're there, like I it will be in house, so it's exciting to see that. There's a couple things that jumped out to me about that. Number one, the actual brewing. I'm not gonna say anything negative about previous ownership groups at CinBev, but the idea that you've got this new company coming in, and they not only did they hire somebody that used to work at Shaneling, which was the company that made Little Kings. They hired a new person on. They also had somebody already on staff that used to work for Shaneling. So you've got multiple people that used to make Little Kings that are part of the staff of this new company to kind of help drive the recipe of what this beer should be. Brian says, is Burger Beer part of the same group? Yes. Burger Beer is still going to be a little ways out before we'll see it again, but Little Kings is definitely the first focus. But it's different. It's a different feeling than it was before. Kind of pushing this in a direction that feels right. The beer, hopefully, I obviously haven't tried it, will be a little bit more accurate to what the beer is supposed to be, or was historically, I guess, Little Kings. It's still going to be in those little green bottles. It is going to be just a straight up cream ale. You're not going to get flavors and 16-ounce cans and all of those things. My light turned off. I think my battery died. This is my life, guys. It's it's just a different direction for a brand that for a lot of us means a lot as far as Cincinnati's beer history goes. Hang on, that's gonna bother me. It's all right. Got more lights. We'll see how long this one lasts. There we go. There's some light behind me. Brian says every high school kid in the future deserves a chance to have a Little King. There's a couple things to unpack from that statement, and there's a part of me that definitely agrees with that. I don't think that since this is a video, this is recorded, my kids will in theory watch this at some point. Kids should not be drinking Little Kings. If you're in high school, don't drink Little Kings. It's bad. You shouldn't drink unless you're with your parents or something. However, the idea that that feeling, that thing, those little green bottles, and just drinking a bunch of them and lining them up and having this experience, it feels, it's fun. It's fun. I think that's the important thing to say. It's fun. Marco says Little King's cream ale did not have lactose. Am I right? They didn't have lactose back then. No lactose. It's not real cream. It's a cream ale, in the same way that Genesee is a cream ale, or any of those beers. No cream at all. Me and you, Marco, we're gonna knock back a case one of these nights coming up. We're gonna sit and we're gonna drink a ton of Little Kings because I love the beer. I love everything it stands for. So I'm excited to see that coming back. Before we recorded the episode, Elisha says cream ale as a style should never have lactose. I think there's a lot of styles that should not have lactose that do. Brian says, what's the ABV? I don't know exactly. I'm going to say somewhere around 5%, somewhere around there. That's just off the top of my head. I'd have to actually look it up, which I can do because why not? Little Kings, 5.5, so 5.5%. Oh, that's funny. If you pull it up, and this is on Untapped, and you pull up what brewery makes it, it is listed as Little King's beer from Contract Brewery, Cincinnati, Ohio, United States. That is funny. They're so close, man. They're coming back. It has been checked in as recently as this week, on November 5th. Brandon checked it in. That is a year-old beer, sir. Somebody else had some on Halloween. My goodness. Somebody else had it on October 30th. Oh, I'm going to get sucked into this now. People that are drinking Little Kings very recently. Somebody says they bought these at Jungle Gyms on October 4th. There's no way they bought them anytime recently. My goodness. Marco says I'm here for that. Yeah, we're gonna pound some Little Kings. Everybody has this style, or this story with this beer, of just sitting around and just drinking them. Brian wants to know, didn't the Maine Moore line buy the rights to this like 10 years ago? There's the story. So there's Moore line was the name of the company before. It is now Cinbev, Cincinnati Beverage Company, is this big brand, this big company that owns all of these brands, be it Little Kings, Shaneling, Hudipole, Christian Moore line. All of that stuff is under Burger, all under the Cinbev kind of banner. And all of those plus other ones are going to be continued or started back into production. It gets a little confusing when you start talking about Christian Moorline, because there is obviously the Moorline Lager House, which does brew beer. They're still in operation. They're making beer currently. They have a fully functioning brew pub down on the river. So it gets a little confusing as far as that brand specifically goes. But all of the other stuff is all under this same company. All of those brands are going to be brought back, and they're going to be brewed in-house in OTR. As of right now, plans are for them all to be done at the Cliffside Brewing Company. Brian says, "Okay, good to know. I lost track. What happened to their main guy?" I assume you're talking about Greg Hardman, who was kind of the face of the brand, the owner of the brand for a very long time. There we go. He was like a Cincinnati beer ambassador. He still is. He sold the brands. He sold his share of the brands to the previous ownership group, sort of. It's very confusing. He sold his share of all of the brands. He is still involved with the Lager House, which is a separate company. He still works down there. He is still involved down there, so he is still there. He is still just as much of a Cincinnati beer ambassador as he ever was. However, the two companies have kind of split even further than they were before. That's the long and short of it. I know sometimes he hangs out on Mondays with us and watches the show. So if he's on, Greg, you're more than welcome to jump in and chime in and share your experience with all of this. But here's what I'm going to say about all of this. The previous ownership group, not Greg Hardman, not this current one, the one in between. Very nice people. I met them a few times. We hung out. We had beers. We talked a lot about a lot of different things. They were very nice people. I don't know how much of it was timing coming into things, or how much of it was just a misunderstanding of how to drive this thing, and maybe in a different market or a different time, it would have worked differently. But I feel better now with this ownership group than I have in a very long time. Seeing the Cliffside Brewery being restored, the Felsenbrow building next door, seeing that coming back to life, is refreshing, exciting, and it makes me feel good as a beer fan. Before we recorded the episode this week, I got a chance to kind of walk through the old. I mean, it's not that old. The previous Moorline Brewery there on Moore Street, which the company is still there technically, but they are on their way out. I think they're going to officially be out by the end of the month, and that building will get sold to somebody else for somebody else to do their thing. I don't know what that'll be, or there's some fun rumors about it, but we'll see. But walking through there, seeing all of this equipment that has been there for a long time. It's a very big building. There was a lot of equipment there. To see all of that being pulled out and moved over to a new space is refreshing and exciting. It feels good, and I don't know when the last time that I felt that excitement and I felt good about these brands was. I've always loved them, but just to feel excited about it is good. Let's see. Brian says, I wonder if the new OTR place will have a tasting room. At some point it will. Here's the bad news about all of that. Now, it's all good news. But the bad side of it is that we are still so early on with all of this. Construction just started this year. Like, they are restoring a building, a pre-prohibition building, bringing it up to standards that you need now for production. So production will happen. We'll call it first. So you will be able to. They're going to bottle beer there this month. After that, then they're going to keep pushing on production to get to where they can brew in-house and actually bring the actual creation of beer back into the building. After all that is up and running, and after they get kind of their feet under them with that, then they shift to the customer-facing side, which would be the tasting room kind of thing. That'll be in the newer part of the building there, as far as Felsenbrow Cliffside. So yes, it will have a tasting room at some point. Then after that, focus will also start to shift up onto the hill, the old Jackson Brewery, which is just an incredible space, and we'll see what that will look like. Brian says, I remember a Moorline place that had a cool domed basement area around OTR. So it's the same place. Very cool spot, but it's been closed for a few years. Yes. So that's the Moore Street Tap Room. That is the tap room from what is, we'll call it the current brewery. It is not currently a brewery. All of the equipment from that space has been pulled out and moved to the new building, which is just right around the corner. I mean, it's still right there. The tap room is gutted. They pulled the bar out. They still have the bar. Like they pulled it out and kept it. So they're gonna probably try to reuse some pieces of that and stuff. In theory, all of the equipment, like I said, is coming over the new space. I don't know what's gonna happen to that tap room because it was such a cool building. But as soon as I hear more, I'll share it with you guys. But as of right now, there's no real plans. There's no official plans, I should say. And it will not be Moorline. But I would love to see somebody come in there and still make it a place that we can sit and have a beer, because it really was a cool space. It never lived up to I guess what it could have been. But all of this just goes to the idea of, this week's episode is a special one, man. It's easy to go either direction when something like this happens, of a company coming in and buying these brands and it being really exciting and a good thing, or it could have been the flip side of this company coming in and just running it into the ground and pulling every ounce of soul out of it. And it really could have gone that way, and it doesn't seem to me like it is. So I feel good about that. I feel really good about the fact that there is going to be Little Kings back on shelves so soon. That makes me happy as a Cincinnati beer nut. So that's where I'm at this week. I have some other video stuff that I've been working on, but is just still so far off from getting up and actually making it onto YouTube. I have the footage, but I just need to sit down and get it edited. I've been focusing pretty hard on some back-end stuff on the blog, working on some back-end stuff for the Nomies and for kind of the Patreon side of things. Matt Demera says it's a nostalgic brew for most of us, I'd say. Can't wait. It feels so good to have stuff like that. It's a shame that shame is probably not the right word to put it under, but Cincinnati, a big part of what makes this city what it is as far as a beer city is that history, and the fact that it still isn't as understood or as known, or as commonplace, I guess, is disappointing for me as a beer drinker. I think that if you listen to the Drinking with the Gnome and the last episode where I sat down with Zane Lamprey and we were talking about kind of his article about what makes a beer city, and it's the things that don't ever make it into those articles. You know, this idea that we had this thing that was happening at one time that died, and then as it comes back and comes, it's reignited and born again. That's what makes this beer scene, like, that's what makes it feel good to me. It's not the latest New England IPA or barrel-aged sours, or the stuff that is really great stuff and exciting and certainly has its place in what makes good beer today. But this other side, this soul behind it all, that you can't always quantify in an article about the 10 best beer cities in the country. That's what makes Cincinnati what it is. For me, at least. And Zach wants to see the gnome without the hat. No, my hair is probably really messy right now. You don't want to see hat hair. Brian says, here's an off-the-wall question. Answer at your own pace. Why are U.S. Pilsners not even close to German Czech Pilsners? Man, there is a big question. I on one hand, I think I know where you're going with this. And on one hand, I disagree with it. I think that there are Pilsners happening here in the United States that are better than Pilsners that are happening in Germany. But I do think that there are a lot of Pilsners or light lagers or whatever you want to classify it as that are not as good. The problem is we have so much beer. We have so many breweries cranking out beer that for every brewery that makes an incredible Pilsner or a great lager or a good IPA or a porter, whatever it is, whatever style you want to pick, for every brewery that makes a great one, there are going to be 10 breweries that make a mediocre one, and there's going to be 5 breweries that make a terrible one. I don't know that that's happening as much here in Cincinnati, but in the United States, it absolutely is. Like there are not, every Pilsner that is coming out of the United States is not going to be good. However, the great Pilsners are great, and they really, really are great. Even here in the city, there are Pilsners that are coming out of the city that stand up to anything that is coming out of Munich. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, not even like the, the gnome side of me, the idealist kind of side. Just actually, sitting down and tasting them and being really, impartial. I think it stands up. I really do believe that. Do you think Cincinnati Pilsners once did from our German heritage? Let's see. And if there are a few recommendations, happy to hear. Caroline says regarding Pilsner, because we haven't tried to pour all of the city's beer into the streets because it was so terrible they were forced to create a new beer style. Craft Parenting Podcast and blog did a podcast about Pilsners where I learned a lot of while researching for it. Brian says I'm thinking Spaten, Urquell, Bitburger, etc. Love to hear this. Marco says there is a great deal of tradition and standards that the German breweries hold to, but they don't need to. Do they have to? Is it necessary? Let the taster be the judge. No, sorry guys. We talked about this a little bit that last episode down at Alexandria where we talked about beer styles a little bit. And Andy down at Alexandria, I love him. I love what he does. I love his dedication to tradition and German tradition in brewing. Some of it's not necessary, and I firmly believe that. I think we talked about it in that episode. That 50 West German Pilsner that they put out was freaking incredible. It's not decocted. Like it's not brewed traditionally in the same way that Andy's Pilsners might be. It doesn't mean it's not good, and it doesn't mean it doesn't taste good. I think that tradition plays an important role in beer, and it's important to have it. And I respect so much the places that hold to tradition, but I don't. There is such a wide range of craft beer these days that we need the places that are super traditional. We need the places that are pushing those boundaries. We need the places that don't make great pilsners that try to get better. We need all of this stuff to make this whole thing work. That's what makes beer in the United States. We have the super kind of stingy, traditional people that do things the way that they do them, and this is the only way to do it, and they're kind of jerks about it. And then we have the people that have no idea what they're doing, but just love beer and start a business out of their garage just to make beer. And like both of those sides of things are as important in this whole big spectrum. That's not happening in Germany. Like you for good or bad, take it what it is, but it's important. Both of them are important. We have a phone call. Let's answer this while the battery actually lasts. Hey, you're on the Weekly Pint. Who is this?
Well, who do you think it is, buddy? How you doing?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to make an assumption.
Marco, friend.
What's up, Marco? How are you?
Marco, my friend. Well, you said decoction, so
It's like a bat signal.
Something went off. It's a bat signal. I was like, I need to call in. No, it's not even about decoction. It's about lagers, German versus not. All that stuff. So I won't take too much of your time, but I can remember back, and you can go back into Cincy Brewcast, where there is a great brewery that has more than one location that was on Cincy Brewcast and said that they were not going to make lagers because they couldn't.
Right.
They didn't have the right equipment. And that was a thought, that was a concept where they make ales because they don't have the right equipment, they don't have the right tanks, they don't have the right this, that, and whatever it is. I mean, there was a perception where you need to have horizontal tanks and you need to have special this and that to make great lagers, and Maybe that was the case. 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Right.
That's not the case today. You as if you are capable of making an ale and you truly care about making a great lager, yes, there are probably some modifications that you need to make, but you can absolutely make those modifications and create a great lager. It's a passion, though. You have to have a passion to want to make it great. And what I would also say is, if it doesn't turn out right and it doesn't turn out perfect, please don't serve it.
Well,
please don't. I think that. And no, I think you were about to interject something of an opinion. Go ahead.
No, this idea that like things don't have to be you don't, if you're making a beer, you don't have to make the best beer in the city. You should try to, but you shouldn't stop yourself from doing something or trying something because somebody else does it better.
Yeah,
Does that make
sure,
sense? And I and,
absolutely.
and I
Uh,
think that
oh,
there were a lot of people, especially in those early days of craft beer, that they maybe got afraid to try things because they didn't have the proper equipment or weren't classically trained or whatever it is. And I think we're starting to get past that. That people are willing to try things, which is good. At the same time, you're gonna have some beer that is not as good as other beer because of that. But that's not a bad
yeah. I
thing.
mean,
It's not a bad thing.
no, no, it's not. And I mean, whether you have a spunding valve or you don't have a spunding valve, you can make a great lager. It's just you whether you call your sample valve or the place where you have your sample port a Zickel or not. I mean, you can have you can have a great lager. I mean, you need to be committed and passionate about making sure that whether you had an ale in that tank before or not, the tank is properly ready to accept a lager. You need to be passionate in the fact that you're going to allow it the time it needs. Your brew team needs to be super understanding about the different stages that lager needs to take and go through to be a great lager, and treat it with the utmost care and respect all the way through the process, and don't rush it. And
You
as you get to make more of it, you understand that you get to understand more of the cadence of it, and use the proper yeast. And you know once you get to the end of it and you get through it and you create your product, please make it look like it's supposed to look, and hopefully
but
it tastes the way you wanted it to taste in the end. And if it's your first time, I mean, for me and the brew team that I worked with, we always had basically a rule of three, where the first time we did something, it was the vision, and the next time we did it, it was a tweak, and the next time we did it, it was this is the way we want to have it coming out over and over and over again. But even those times, it's like you tweak it to make it that iteration or that way you wanted to make it. But
well,
but please,
I don't want to
you know
sound I don't want to
that
sound like a beer snob though. Like I mean, maybe I am, but like I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that you can't experiment and you can't play around with stuff. You can't try to find ways to make lager faster or use different yeast or things like that. Like we should be able to
you
play
can
around with that. I don't know that. I
you
don't know.
can no, but you absolutely can, and the yeast purveyors will tell you that these products are out there, and I'm not saying that we haven't used them, but what I'm saying is, when I say use the right yeast, is know how it's going to turn out.
Right.
Just if you're going to use one of these that is not a traditional German yeast lager strain, then that's fine. But know that it's harder to clarify, or know that it's quicker to ferment, and you need uh, it needs the beer itself needs a little more care later,
Right.
or whatever it may be.
Know what you're
Um,
doing and why you're doing it, and don't just do things haphazardly. Like put some thought behind it.
yeah, I mean, that's it. And ultimately, um, just be honest with yourself, as a brew team, and say, uh, it's okay to say, this is good enough to put out for the public to drink. But you don't have to give it a name that it's going to.
Yeah.
You don't have to give it a name that it's always going to have. You could just say experimental lager one instead of saying, this is our traditional German, Pilsner, and it's cloudy and it's not sharp and it's, just you can put it out there for people to drink. But once you hone it in, roll with it. But other than that, it's number one, it's okay to dump. Number two, it's okay to
call it something else.
Call it experimental. Yeah, you call it something else. Whatever. No, I don't want to see anybody lose money. But
Brian commented. He says, "I always thought it came down to the barley grown in Germany versus the U.S. And that's a part of it. Like, ingredients do mean something. It does mean something.
Oh, they absolutely do. And then now when you have the German maltsters versus, if you want to go local maltsters and just different things. Just because you buy a Pilsner malt from a German purveyor and you buy a Pilsner malt from a different purveyor, they're not the same. You need to.
Well, and it could go either way. Just because you get some kind of traditional ingredient from Germany does not mean that it's going to be better than that ingredient that is maybe grown here. Usually it probably is, but especially on the malt side. But it doesn't mean that because it comes from Germany does not make it better. It may make it more traditional, or it may make it kind of fit into a style guideline differently than if it didn't have that ingredient. But what's the beer taste like is at the end of the day the important part. For the most part.
Ultimately, we all and I want to say we all want to have a appreciation for great and delicious beer, but that means something different to everybody. So, anyways, great to talk to you, buddy. I'm going to get off here and listen to the rest. So, cheers, man.
Good. My battery's about to die on my phone. It just beeped at us. So
that's awesome. All right, check out Truth Beer Pod every week.
That's right. Truthbeerpod.com. Marco and Julia, they do a podcast where they talk about local podcasts. So go listen to that. Go subscribe wherever you guys listen to podcasts. I assume that everybody that's on this live stream right now listens to podcasts. So just go on whatever app you use, look up Truth Beer Pod, and you'll see it. It's orange. You'll see it, and you just download it, subscribe to it. It keeps you caught up on all of the things that are happening with all of our local podcasts. There's a really cool thing happening in the city right now with this craft beer podcast community. We're hitting this hump of it being a thing, and we're gonna keep pushing. I can speak for me that we're gonna keep pushing to keep building this little community thing that we've got going on and turning it into something bigger. And if any of you that are on this stream right now ever have the idea that you want to start a podcast, just reach out to any one of us. I can't speak for everybody else, but I'll speak for me. Reach out to me, and we'll help you make a podcast, because I think the voices are important, and we need more voices expressing their opinions. Zach wants to know about what happened to Little Kings. How long has it been gone? I saw the question earlier. It's about a year. So about a year since batch has been brewed. It's around still in a couple places in theory, but it's old. It's a year old. That's how long it's been gone. But in that middle ground, there was a weird thing that happened with Little Kings. It was brought back finally to being brewed locally. It was brewed out of state for a very long time, under contract. And when it came back, it was exciting. Then this new ownership group came in, and again, with all respect to them, they made these flavored versions. They made this blood orange agave Little Kings and this lime Little Kings and put it in 16-ounce cans, and it's not what Little Kings is supposed to be, in my opinion. So it's back in a very different way now. So that's what happened with Little Kings. So it's back, new recipe, going back to what the original recipe in theory was. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good for Cincinnati beer in a very different way than traditional pilsners and things like that. This is definitely a Cincinnati thing. Little Kings in those little 7-ounce green bottles is different than traditional pilsner in a big giant, a big pilsner flute sitting out in the sun, discussing the nuances of German-grown pilsner malt versus United States-grown pilsner malt. Different category of beer, but just as important. Zach says I had the orange one and it was good. That's fine. I'm sure it was good, but it's not Little Kings. We talked about that a little bit in this week's episode of the podcast. Caroline says we'll see if it still tastes the same. Chasing some Jaeger. I don't chase Jaeger with my Little Kings, or vice versa. Whiskey, it goes good with whiskey. Bourbon and Little Kings is damn tasty. Elijah says, I have an urge to have some Little Kings with a Malort sidecar. All right. That's to each their own. I don't hate, this is a definitely a hot take. I don't hate Malort in the way that I should hate Malort. It's not great. Like, I'm not going to sit around and drink Malort. And this is probably kind of hinting at some future shows that, especially on the Drink with the Gnome side, Malort, if you instead of having a regular cap on it, if you put a dasher on it, Malort changes completely. And I believe that, and I embrace that. I think Malort has a very real place behind a bar. But in the same way that, like, if you just take Angostura bitters and drink it, it's not very tasty. It's not the most delicious thing in the world. It's not bad, though, and I think Malort kind of falls into that too. If you like tire fires. Anyways, let's wrap things up. We are we're almost at an hour, so we'll wrap the show up. This week's episode, if you didn't listen to it already, we touched on some of the big overarching topics behind it with Little Kings and everything, but if you're a fan of Cincinnati beer at all, listen to the episode. It makes me feel good about the direction of that company. Julia says, remember to vote tomorrow if you didn't vote early. Yes, go vote. Always vote. I tell you what, go vote in the election, and then also go vote on beer, because you can still go to Sonder and vote on their lagers. I don't think Westside has any of their IPAs on right now, but soon they'll have another flight ready to go for you to vote and make your opinion known there. So just keep voting on things. We all like having our opinion known. Caroline says she can't wait to hang out at Beer, Booze, and Bonks soon. I can't wait to hang out with everybody. If you don't have your tickets already, go get your tickets, especially if you can get 10 people together to get one of those VIP tables. It gets you in a half hour early. Doesn't cost any more. You just have to have 10 people together. So get 10 people, get a table, and then you can get in a half hour early and make sure you get to try everything you want to try. I'm a little concerned that some of those beers won't last all session. So get your tickets and get there. And if there's something you want to drink it. Elijah is going to be missing it again due to scheduling Friendsgiving before Beer, Booze, and Bonks announcement. So everybody knows it'll always happen the weekend before Thanksgiving. That is a thing now. We own the weekend. We have claimed it. Sorry, March 1st and Stout Blowout. We took it. It's ours now, and we've taken it. It's ours. It's ours fully. Go full. If you want to read more about the festival, go to thenarlygnome.com/beerboozebonks. That'll give you all the information about the festival. I'm going to have a full list of the breweries that are participating up there tomorrow. And beers will start getting filtered in then after that. I have a good chunk of the beers already kind of set. There are some that we're talking about that aren't set in stone yet that may kind of change and stuff. So I'm trying to time it right. But go on there and read everything you want to know. If you want to get your tickets, go to thenarlygnome.com/tickets. That's the easiest way to go. The easiest way to remember, other than trying to spout off the whole address over on cincyticket.com. But the festival is going to be great. Sponsored by WEBN this year. You guys will hear a lot more about it. But it's going to be fun. Marco says, I'll have Julia help me sign up tomorrow. That's fun. Poor Marco. Elijah says, some of the wood again, though. We need turkey tier for the event. Hope we smoke some birds. Just everybody try to go, because it really is going to be a blast. There is football that day, Ohio State and the Bearcats, so it'll be on TVs. If you are doing a Friendsgiving, just bring people there after you guys eat. Just come hang out, and we'll drink together, because the amount of time that goes into planning an event like this is insane. So I hope to see you guys there. My wife will be there this year. She's going to be running the table. I'm going to set up a table with a bunch of gnome merch. There is one other limited edition black on black gnome hat that I'll be selling. I have one of those. I think that's probably the only real new merch that'll be there. But we're going to try to get through some of the old glassware, sticker packs, T-shirts. I think I have a couple sweatshirts maybe. A bunch of different hats. There's some good stuff, and she's going to be hanging out and selling that. I'm going to be podcasting live, so anybody that's there, if you want to jump on a podcast, you might have a shot. So there we go. Everybody come. Be there. If you like this show that isn't a show, if you like this, if you like the podcasts, if you like the YouTube channel, if you like any of that stuff and you want to support it, go to thenarlygnome.com/support. We're cranking really, really hard right now, and next year is going to get even more intense of trying to push some of that stuff and trying to keep growing this thing. The business side of what I do, the gnome creative photography, videography is very important, and I love it. But the Gnarly Gnome is still always at the center of everything, the universe. So it means a lot for those of you who go straight to the source via the Patreon account and support that way. You guys make this happen, so thank you very much. And tell your friends if you like this and you think that they like it or they will like it. Just tell them about it, because every little bit helps. Every new listener, every new supporter makes a difference. So thank you guys. We'll be back next week, and we'll do the same thing again, but just a different week, different topics, different ideas. Maybe we'll even have some label approvals next week. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Thank you, Brian. Good hanging out with you. We'll see you guys next week. Like I said, tell your friends. Julia says she just wants to hang out and drink. Story of my life. Thank you, guys. If I can find the button. There it is. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week. Make sure you're subscribed to Cincy Brewcast, because next week, good friend of the show, good friend of Cincinnati podcasting, Matt Damaris is coming back on the show, exclusive here on the Weekly Pint. You get the news before anybody else, because I love you. We did have to be careful what day we scheduled the show, because he fasts. So he's fasting, I think, today. Lame.